Renata, this is the Global Digest think tank group. Why don't you briefly introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Uh, I'm a tax lawyer from Brazil. I've been a tax lawyer for the last 14 years in Brazil. Then I decided to move to Italy and to do this master's in political science and European studies, especially. And so I've studied European institutions and European Union public policy, specialized me in fiscal policy, especially regarding green fiscal policy. And I've been writing and studying more about Eurobonds as green Eurobond, especially, to how we can deal with new green investments, to deal with the transition and with the necessity of having more greater investments in capital market.
I see. So you are working with European Union.
Yes, yes. Now I've been closer to the European Union,
I see.
being more connected to it. But as I'm by citizen, being also an Italian citizen, I used to come here since the 90s. So I could see uh, very really from a very citizen perspective the evolution of the European Union. I lived also. I've studied in a German school in Brazil, and I lived for 7 months in Germany too. So I've always had my German professors during school and university telling me everything that was happening there while I was still a student.
I see. So do you enjoy living in Europe?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I see that there are many differences regarding Brazil and Italy and Europe in general. Italy is also very particular comparing to other countries in European Union, but I consider that Italy can be a more conservative country in comparison to Brazil. We're more open, and in Brazil, people are more open to new cultures and to dealing with people because we receive so many people from everywhere. So,
Right.
with many religions, many backgrounds, so we may be more open to them than Italy. I've grown up with in a Italian family. So, and my dad actually in Brazil, my father had pizzeries.
I,
So I was very in the, the
Italian food.
Italian gastronomy. I've always been, but also that food is very good in Brazil, especially because we have this mix of cultures and we have so many fruits and vegetables that we have around, and also the meat is very good too. So we do have a high quality of food, either in Brazil and in Italy, with a lot of diversity. And but something that I find really attractive to the Italian gastronomy is that they actually like you have, for example, the sauce which is from tomatoes that came from America, but in a time of discovery they adapted it, but they usually consume things that are very come from very close to their regions. So they in this way they diminish the gas emissions for the transport of the food that they have to bring to the city centers. So this is a very interesting principle of circular economy when we're thinking about environmental policies too. So, and this is part of the tradition. Especially in my city, there are many Italians. We have Italian neighborhoods too. So I used to eat also Italian food as well, not only the Brazilian, more Brazilian, which is basically rice and beans and meat and salad. This is
I
the
see.
basic Brazilian dish for every day.
Your father's Italian. You even they live in Brazil. You can easily become Italian citizen. Such kind of agreement.
Yes, this rule is since the Italian Constitution actually. So since 46. women are allowed also to transmit to their children the Italian citizen. Before that, um, only men could transmit the Italian citizen to their offspring. Uh, but nowadays, even if someone has a grandmother or a great grandmother, in this case, that is Italian, this person is able to access the Italian court, and make recognize the right of the Italian citizen. It's very open to descendants, the Italian, because there's no limit. So even if it's 200 years, if you can prove it, if you can have all the documents, you still can become Italian citizen.
Right. So it's not just men, right? Women also
Also women.
they
Also women.
accept it. So you speak 3 languages: Italian, Portuguese, English.
And also German and Spanish.
You can also speak German and French.
And Spanish.
Oh, so many languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you can memorize. It's not confused.
No, because it was one each time. I started with German actually, because I've studied in a German school, and at home I had the Italian and of course the Portuguese in Brazil. So it was quite interesting to. We have a very multicultural community in Brazil. It's very environment. It's very nice also. And when you study more languages, you have more access to many different cultures. So this is the most fascinating part of studying new languages.
Right.
I've been to Thailand, to Cambodia, to Vietnam, and I found it really interesting and nice. Many treatments agreements between Latin America and Asia that nowadays they don't have to go to Europe. They can find investments, that they can have so many things in common right now. They're developing because somehow other
Right.
countries are not dependent to United States and to Europe anymore, so they can grow partnerships with the countries from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America. So this is very interesting too. Yes, and Brazil is the country that received the major number of Japanese. So we have a very strong Japanese culture and community there, especially in my city, which is São Paulo.
I see. So in EU, mainly, what is your role in EU?
Nowadays, I've been mostly studying. I'm assistant of a professor in at Louis University, where I done my master's. So he invited me, and I've been working in university in this master's that we actually kind of train students to write public advice and public policy. So we have to understand all the institutions that make the European Union. So the Commission, the European Parliament, the Court of Justice, and many other organisms from institutions from the European Union. And we have to understand how we can communicate. In the end, we all speak English all the time. So either we're very connected to Belgium, Brussels, because it's our capital, where the commission is, the center of the power. And in the end, because of it's easier, we communicate mostly in English, but we learn how to write public advice, speeches, briefings, and in this way, we learn how private corporations can work, how lobbying institutions can work, how countries can work doing policies also with the European Union.
As your background is law, legal background, and you have anything to do with legal issue at the European Union?
Yeah, I actually do understand a lot of EU law, so I understand more and I could develop it more. I can understand how the fiscal policies are made because it's the European Union has no big budget actually. Right now, budget and fiscal issues are mainly considered by the each member state. So what can the EU do without investing so much money? And they do invest a lot of money, but not as much as they wanted to. So how can they do it? How can they control the targets of, for example, environmental targets that they have? They do regulation. So this is law. They are always all the time creating new law, either to control, to foster the investments, as they are regulating now the green capital market. They are always trying to implement new regulations and control either if the existing ones are working, and they can develop new regulations. But the EU is mostly about regulation, and regulation that can even affect other countries outside the European Union. For example, we have a regulation for deforestation combat. So to fight against the deforestation, they chose seven products that are imported into the European Union and come from outside: coffee, soya, wood, meat, and in this case, they have to certify that those products do not come from a place that had deforestation. So to Brazil, it's a big deal to prove that the land where the meat, where the cattle grow, has grown, was had no problem with the deforestation. It was all certified, so it's important. And this regulation in this case affects the market and affects other countries.
What is mostly the problem of physical policy in EU?
The main problem,
Your experience.
challenge, yeah, in my experience, the main challenge in this case is that fiscal policy right now is mainly developed by each country, by each member state, because there's still some part of sovereignty that is reserved still to member states. So, but the EU is growing, and the more the EU is growing, the more the European Union is growing, the more is trying to have some budget, and it needs also money from each member state, from the people from each member state. So the fiscal policy is a problem. They faces many problems because members we have 20 now that we have 27 different member states with different ideas of how taxation should evolve, how people should be charged, and they have differences into policies in the way that the economy is organized. You can't compare Italy or France to a country that is slightly more, like slightly less developed in the in Eastern Europe, that faces so many challenges still with the industrial policies. They're still developing their industrial, they still developing their institutions. So the way of living of population, they wouldn't support to pay as much taxes as the person from Germany or from France or from Italy do. So this is a big challenge because we don't have a standard in those 27 different nations that compose the European Union.
I see. So there is no synchronized system. If one country has tax, similarly, all these 27 countries should do the same system. Or
No,
it's
it's still
not,
it's
not
still it's still a mess actually. They're still fighting, and there are many cases that we work to for a single market. We work to connect the markets from all the countries so that they can uh, allow the transport and the transmission of capital, people, and goods all across Europe. But there are still many challenges to face. Since the 80s, a lot has been done. We're talking now that there maybe will be a European Capital Markets Union and that would be really important to foster the development of companies. But still, in the other hand, we have member states that are trying to protect the national winners, which are the companies that are more prosperous on each country. Sometimes this company is prosperous because it has a lot of subsidies coming from this member state. So it's difficult to compete.
So in terms of tax related to fiscal policy, is unequal tax among different countries. It means small country and big countries has any different things, or what are unequality?
There's a large space for plurality, and not only considering the level of development of the countries, but also what the decisions that they made, sometimes conscious and sometimes not that consciously. I can give you an example that we have Ireland. Ireland developed a lot. It's where many companies related to technology are established because they have the English, which is a very good point because people there can work. They have also already the language, and they were offered very tax levels that are very low, so they pay so less taxes that it creates a very interesting environment for companies. Nowadays, Ireland is even having to give some answers to the European Union because it may have given too much discounts on taxes to those companies, and but the European Union has not established yet a standard of what could be the minimum level of taxes that they could charge. Some countries charge more consume, some countries tax more the patrimony, the wage. So there's a lot of variations right now. And since it's also connected to sovereignty, and since in many countries we see that there are many governors, prime ministers that come especially from the right, that is a tendency that they are not inclined to open and to give away this part of taxes and this part of control of the situation in the member states.
I see. So each country policy on taxes differences. So uh, uh, in case of Ireland, they charge low tax, mean it's good for company, right?
Yeah, but then other countries complain because they say it's an unfair competition,
I see.
and they say that they should have some kind of standards among the countries of the EU at least.
So mostly which countries they don't want to do standard, or which country want to do standard tax among EU? Maybe there are pro and con among EU, right?
Why? Right now, each country has decided itself the
Right.
way to govern. Even Italy, which is a huge economy, it's still fighting a lot about how to tax and how to even inside the country there is this big question to answer. There's a lot of evasion to tax evasion in Italy, which is a very important problem to address, which is that means that a great part of the population simply doesn't see they should. So there are rules and they're not following them. And how they could deal with that is a problem too. So sometimes it's a matter of changing the rules, sometimes it's even a matter of following the rules that already exist. And the thing is that tax is always choice, an agreement that you do with your own population. And since the European Union started growing, it starts getting part of the policies that first were implemented by each government to be implemented to this supranational institution that is the European Union. And some people even say that it could be a federation in the next years, in the next decades. It could be part of the evolution of the EU. But at the moment, most countries are not willing to let this part of taxes to the European Union. They are more inclined to keep this part to themselves. But what we have is that we have some challenges that are going to be faced by all of them, all the 27 member states. I can give you a very strong example. We have the defense concerns because Europe for many years, for the last decade since the Second Great War, they didn't have so many investments on armies and on defense, and they trusted on NATO, which is mostly sponsored by United States. We have today the result of the elections, and Mr. Trump was elected, and Europe already anticipates that part of the defense is compromised, since part of the investments regarding the NATO may be reviewed in the next years. So when we are living in a world full of conflicts, we have Ukrainian war, we have in the Middle East, and we are not living a moment of peace. So Europe, unfortunately, so Europe is trying to make sure that they can have budgets for defense too, and they weren't inclined in the latest decades for that. They weren't expecting to have this kind of concern as they're having now. I guess most of the countries, not only that is not a privilege from the European Union. I can imagine that most countries also in Asia weren't expecting to have such deep concerns into defense issues.
Right, right. So, I mean, I see European countries, they have money, they have money, but maybe they are not willing to pay. They don't want to pay. That is the problem, I guess. As you said, they have to pay,
They
each
have to
country
pay, yeah.
and
They have to understand that now it's necessary to make some investments they were always expecting to come from the United States.
yeah.
And in fact, the Mario Draghi report in September, which is Mario Draghi was a former president of the ECB, the European Central Bank. He's very important. He is a person who saved the euro in 2008 crisis. So he gave a report, a very detailed one, and he was saying that Europe may apply just to to reach the defense targets, the environmental targets, just to reach a level of competition into the industry, that it's close to 250 million euros extra in investments yearly. So each year, 250 million euros extra. So how they can raise such money coming from private and public investments? This is a very important challenge to address. And this is the main challenge of the Commission. They're trying to deal with that with many things. It comes through taxation as well, but it also comes through fostering the market, because they say that the European markets and the European industry is not very efficient. So although they invest, it doesn't come as it's not as efficient as the market, the growing markets from Asia, for example. And they also have they all the targets that have been being set are considering also China, pointing China and United States as the main countries to think of and to be competitive with. So they target China and they target United States as a place that they want to be in economy.
Right. So among EU countries, if there is a tax disputes or tax problem among them, where do you go to the court as you are a lawyer? It's there's EU court, right? Have you ever do any? Have you ever fight for any legal issue
No,
in the court?
I haven't, but I've been reading about it, and right now we still have a lot to do in regulation concerns to deal with that. Companies are trying, and they're trying their best not to pay taxes. For
Right.
example, some companies, if you make you an individual, make yourself an individual company, you will be able to spare a lot of money in taxes that you wouldn't be able to do it in Italy, for example. So it's different. Each country has so many differences. Germany is also evolving so much into green taxation, and considering that a company that doesn't invest to reach the environmental targets that they set, they should pay more taxes, because in the end it's the environment and the whole society that is being prejudiced because of the way that the company is working. But it's interesting that Europe is looking with a lot of curiosity and concern to all the things that has been doing for environmental solutions. Because China is doing a lot. When we talk about a competitive industry that is concerned about creating new solutions that are more suitable with the green transition, with energy transition, uh, we cannot not mention China. It's becoming a leader also in green industry, as we can see.
Right. So European court is in Brussels, where is located?
It's in Brussels.
I see. So you said you never experienced at the European court, right?
No, no, no. The court in Strasbourg. I just visited in Strasbourg, but I couldn't. I haven't worked with them. We have to read a lot of cases coming from them, and they're trying to give some solutions when there are the problems, mostly on taxation. So many problems on taxation that taxation can be used as a barrier for commerce, and Europe is fighting to have a free commerce among countries. So taxation is also a problem.
So
We should we
you said you never handle any cases.
No, in Europe, no. I used to work more with taxes, mostly connected to Brazil. Now I've been working more connected to fiscal policies and how to address them in a part of regulation. Well, right now, because I'm a lawyer in Brazil, but I'm not in the Italian court
Or you don't have an
connected to. So
Italian
it's I'm
law.
not recognized as a lawyer here in Italy yet. I still have to have 3 years of practice and in Italy so that I can make the exam. Part of my career transition was to work more with policies. So to address more the part of regulation and the part of companies. So instead of working as a lawyer with the cases. So I might see in the future if I will get a license for to become a lawyer also here. but at least now it's not on my plan. Yeah, sometimes I'm still a lawyer in Brazil, and sometimes I use it because I can work from remotely to Brazil, and I have the certificate that I can use from everywhere I am. So I'm still a lawyer, and I'm still really connected to. For example, we're having a revision of all the tax laws in Brazil right now. Also, to ask ourselves what we want from taxation. And in Brazil, the main problem is that they have to give some clarity of the system, because companies, when they establish in Brazil, they don't know how much they're going to pay. And they go for lawyers and they go for specialists. And sometimes even though lawyers and specialists, they cannot say how much they're going to pay, because
Right.
there is a lot of insecurity coming from the courts and coming from the laws. So Brazil is reviewing this part to become more transparent and to have a greater environment for companies to invest in Brazil. This is something that Europe is been doing also. But I've been working more with the regulation part instead of working for those companies as a lawyer, because I didn't want the anymore the this life of being in a law firm with a lot of stress, working so many hours. And I thought that I was working for the companies, but I wanted to work more for society. I wanted to serve the society. And this is something that I've been doing now lately.
Because you choose for policy, you are more comfortable with that.
Yes, I wanted to see a greater impact to the society that I could make with my work. I'm an assistant of a professor who is currently a leader of the DG, the Director General of the EU Commission, and he's responsible for the enlargements coming from the Balkans.